Hello, everyone. I am pleased to have this opportunity to speak to alumni and friends of Camp Rising Sun. I want to thank Helene and everyone else who helped to arrange this event. One day in 1946, the headmaster of my high school, Birchwathen School in New York, called me into his office and said he wanted to nominate me to become a camper at a very unusual camp. He said that his son had been a camper there in 1931. And so I was invited to an interview with Mr. George Jonas, who founded Camp Rising Sun and whom we came to call Freddie. I don't know how he got that nickname. It turned out to be a group interview. There were several boys there, and Mr. Jonas asked us questions. I was too shy to say anything, so I just sat there while the other boys talked. I was not accepted, and I never became a camper at Rising Sun. 4 years went by, and in 1950, I received a letter from Mr. Jonas. He was looking for a nature counselor and had gone to the National Audubon Society, and someone there had recommended me. So I went for an interview for that and was offered a counselor position, and Mr. Jonas did not remember that he had ever seen me before, and he was surprised when I told him about my interview with him 4 years earlier. I became a counselor for 4 summers. It's very hard to believe that my first year at camp was 70 years ago. I have stayed in contact with some people I knew at camp in 1950 for a long time. The camper from Finland in 1950, Jaakko Sorvari, told me that if I ever came to Finland, he would show me around. And exactly half a century later, in summer 2000, I went to Finland and he drove me in his car 800 miles north along the border between Finland and Russia into the Arctic. And just a few days ago, I exchanged Facebook messages with a 1950 camper from Bolivia, Ivan Guzman de Rojas, whom I have not seen for 70 years, but we still chat on Facebook. Most international campers in 1950 came from Europe, and they came by boat. And after the camp season ended, we would go to the piers in Manhattan to say goodbye to the European campers as their ships departed. Every year, Freddie went to Europe in the fall, and he would go on the same ships that campers went on. But he would not tell them he was going to do that. He went to the piers ostensibly just to say goodbye to the campers, and then he would sneak onto the boat when they were not watching, and in the middle of the ocean, he would give them a very big surprise by phoning them on the ship's telephone system. And he would say that he didn't really want to go to Europe, but he had failed to get off the boat in time. He liked to play practical jokes on people. The camp program in my first summer at camp in 1950 was very much like it has been ever since. Very much like 2019, the most recent camp year. We had instructions, projects, teamwork, which was called squad work then, rest period after lunch, evening programs, assemblies several times a day, free unscheduled times, formal council once a week. And the daily program was run by campers who used to be called sachems, although that word is not used anymore. While the camp program is essentially unchanged, many other things have changed a great deal. The camp experience has been made available to girls beginning in 1989. There's a new campsite at Clinton, and the alumni experience has been transformed. And I want to say something about that. Of course, we have many more alumni now than we did then, but radically new communication technologies have made a gigantic difference. In the earliest years of camp, in the early 1930s, when all campers lived in New York, alumni would be notified of alumni activities through telephone chain calls. Alumnus A would phone alumnus B, who would phone C, who would phone D. But there were two problems with this. First problem is that, of course, a chain is no stronger than its weakest link. The second problem is that some campers did not have telephones. This was a Depression year. Damian Brennan, who was at camp in 1987, told me that after the camp season, he phoned one of his camp friends in Europe from the United States, and the phone call that he made cost $67, which is the equivalent of $155 today. In 1993, a new alumni directory was published with names of about 3,300 alumni. And something new appeared in that volume. Of these 3,300 alumni, 83 of them reported something new: email addresses. 83 out of 3,300. But within a few more years, email use became widespread, and soon it became possible for a camper returning home to any place in the world to send an email message to all of his or her campmates simultaneously, very easily, and at no cost. And it also became possible for the Jonas Foundation administration to send messages to all alumni very easily. In the early years of Rising Sun, the alumni, of course, were very few in numbers, and alumni activities were relatively unimportant. Today, with thousands of alumni all over the world, and with new communication technologies, alumni activities have a growing importance, while camp itself is temporarily suspended during the pandemic. Of course, the pandemic will not last forever, and I hope to be able to visit camp again in 2021 or 2022. One final comment I'd like to make: I have written a history of camp, updated to 2018. I'd be very happy to send this as an email attachment to any alumnus who would like a copy of it. Just send me a message to mauricerichter@gmail.com. Thank you very much, everyone.